Hello YouTube and friends. Welcome to another video from aka Reef Guy on this 90-gallon Reef Aquarium. We've been working on it for over a year. The last video you saw, I started it up finally. It took me a long time to get to that point. Everything went smooth. The tank's been running great. I've really been enjoying playing with it. Now, the purpose of this video is going to be talking about the usability of the aquarium. So all the things that I designed when putting this together for just me as an aquarist playing around with it, using these systems and how I wanted them. I put a lot of thought into the build of this tank, specifically the stand. A lot of thought went into the planning of the stand. And all of those things that I thought would add value to this system and how I use it have come to be true. So I've really been enjoying this process. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Another thing is you'll notice some inconsistencies in my video posting. And if you notice, the name of my channel is AK Reef Guy. That means Alaska Reef Guy. Alaska, summertime is not reef keeping season. That's a wintertime thing. I actually joke around with my wife where I start September, October, I say it's beginning to be reef season, and we laugh about it because in the summer I've got a lot of other things going on. So also in preparation for expanding this YouTube channel, I've kind of been looking at different camera gear, and then all of a sudden, zing, new hobby, photography. So I've been spending a lot of time looking into photography. Actually, I have a new YouTube or a camera coming for photography and YouTube. So the next video should be shot with some different equipment. So it'll be fun to try those other things out. But we're going to go ahead and get into this. I got a lot of things to show you tonight. This is going to be a fun video. Probably not one of my most viewed videos, but one that I'm really excited to share with you. So hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe, whatever you want to do. If not, that's cool, but just having fun. Okay, let's play. So we're going to start with the first part, what I think most people want to see is the aquarium itself before we get into the equipment. As you can see, it's cycling. So it's not a lot to show. I mean, it's just a tank full of water, a sterile tank. Some things to aid in the cycling process. I had some bio blocks from my BioCube that we're seeding for a couple months. I threw in the sump, so I got some kickstart with the bacteria. I've also done a couple water changes from my BioCube with old tank water that has given it a little bit more biodiversity. And then I've also put a tester coral in it. As you can see here, green star polyp from my BioCube. It's also got a mushroom on it. Thinks it's a toxic Avenger mushroom from Worldwide Corals. Two really hardy little corals. This is actually the first coral to go into my BioCube, and it's done really well. So we brought it over here, and it's doing well over here. So pretty good, encouraging. A little bit of detritus building up, just from the rock. It was all dry rock. So I'm fully aware that we're going to have some hardships with the ugly phase coming my way shortly with doing dry rock. One of the harder ways to start a reef tank is what I'm doing here, especially no substrate. So this is, if you're starting a new reef tank, this is what's trending right now, is to do an aquarium like this with the negative space aquascape here, no sand, new rock. So it's completely sterile, no pests come in here. But the drawback is you have a lot less biodiversity and stability in your system early on. So I am going to struggle early on, but over time it will get more stout and hardy. It'll just take a while. It's the same thing I experienced with my BioCube. It's a good year before it really started looking good. So fear not, I will document the whole process, even the ugly days, because we all go through them. Okay, now we're going to get into the equipment. We're here on the right side of the stand. This is the dry side. Now, if you've been following this build, you'll notice that what's different about this aquarium versus many others, especially like the Red Seas or the water boxes that you see, is that the dry side is about half, a little bit less than half of this under tank space. So the drawback to that is that I have a much smaller sump than what you probably are used to seeing on a tank of this size. So why did I do that? And the big thing is you see a lot of aquariums where the sump takes up the entire bottom of the aquarium. The benefit to that is that you have more water volume, you have a bigger sump, more equipment you can move in there. There's a lot of flexibility with what you can put in your sump. The drawback to that is that, for one, aesthetics. If you look under one of those tanks, those people are struggling with the electronics, where to put their wires, having space. It's very not visually appealing. So a lot of people, that's not a big deal. For me, that is a huge thing. I consider my aquarium like a hot rod. So when I have friends over and they're like, oh, you built your aquarium? I'm like, yeah, no, I mean, I built it. They don't quite understand that. And then I open up the cabinet here and they see this and they're, oh, I mean, you built it. Like, yeah, I built it. This side, I wanted to look clean. So when you open it up, you could access all the controllers, you know, and have a little space down here to work, and it'd be very tidy, you know, no cables. I mean, besides going through these holes, that's all I wanted to see. And I wanted to have some nice space to work when I sit down here on the floor. You know, once the kids go to bed and I'm playing around with my aquarium, you know, I've got my little Bluetooth speaker here. I put on, you know, I usually listen to Reef Therapy with the Reef Builders, Jake Adams and Mark. I forget his last name, but they're really something I enjoy listening to, especially when I'm doing maintenance. So I'll put that on this Bluetooth speaker. I'll sit down here and, you know, just do my maintenance and have a nice little space to work. Drink my coffee, you know, in the morning. This is pleasing to me. This is nice. I open this up. It's like it's a happy place. Okay. Just a little old box. For my Vectra, it's just where I keep extra parts, you know, for my pumps and things like that. Just a nice place to put them. Keep a little shop towel. Dosing pumps, we're not using those yet. But if you haven't seen this, the big thing is that once you open these up, you know, it doesn't just stop there. Even down in here, and I'll have to adjust the camera so you can see it. Inside the cabinet, it's nice and clean in there too. Wires are all organized. This is not a space that stresses me out. I have enough going on in my life, you know, and when I work on my aquarium, it's supposed to be a zen thing, not open it up and just be one more thing to do. And there's going to be plenty of that going down the road once we get into the ugly phase of the aquarium. Okay, onto the sump side of the aquarium. Like I said, it's about half of the under cabinet space. I went with a Red Sea sump. It's a 25 gallon, I believe. Obviously don't fill it all the way full. Uses one filter sock, has one overflow, one drain. If I could do this again, I'd probably get a bigger tank for one, obviously. I would have liked to have the second drain, so I could have got an overflow box that has the emergency overflow and the continuous siphon drain. But this works. Nothing wrong with what I have. It's silent, it's quiet. I mean, you hear a little trickle, but when I close the stand, it's pretty quiet. It does its job. Skimmer. I have the Aquamax FDC 120. It's a DC protein skimmer. Had a real hard time getting this thing dialed in. I bought it over a year ago, well before the tank was ready to be to this stage, and it sat. And then I finally, once I had the aquarium running, I put it in, fired it up, and the first night it was running, it was making this grinding noise that was so loud, it woke me and my wife up in the middle of the night, and I had to come out here and try and fiddle with the thing, and I could not figure it out for the life of me, and I'm still to this day not quite sure what was going on, because I would take the pump apart, put it back together, and then it would work just fine, and then a couple hours later start doing that again. Well, I did it last time I did it, and I put it back together. Now it's not doing it at all, so it's gone for about a week now without making that grinding noise, and it's been working great. You see it's just starting to do a real wet skim. Not surprising, there's really not a whole lot of proteins for this thing to be skimming at this time. It's mostly just what's in the rock, and probably from the water changes I'm doing with old tank water, a little bit of that, and maybe what's coming off of the the Green Star polyps that I put in. Here's the freshwater reservoir. You got my auto top off in there. Now, one of the really cool things about this is when you look in here where the auto top off comes up and goes into the return pump chamber, there's actually a little passageway in between the two. And when I was thinking about the auto top off and which one to buy, there's a lot of debate about what's the best one. Everybody seems to pick a certain brand. I did not pick that brand, and cost was one of the things, to be honest with you. But with the selling point for that other brand, I'm not going to name it, is the redundancies that are built into it. You know, there's a lot of different auto top offs that talk about redundancy. And the one I picked, it has three actually. But when I really came down to it, I looked at it, and the size of this chamber is bigger than the auto top off chamber. There's a passageway between the two, okay? So if this was full of water and that pump failed and pumped all of that into this chamber, what would happen is the back auto top off or the return pump chamber would fill up, and that water would just overflow back into here. The water inside this chamber, even if it filled this up, the two of them couldn't overflow because it would just flow back into here and cancel that out. Okay. Furthermore, I keep this sump level. I don't keep this water level very high. It's probably, you know, maybe 6 or 7 inches. So there's a lot of room for air in this chamber too. So if the auto top off does fail on, it's going to take quite a bit of water to fill that up. And when it gets to here, it's not going to overflow a whole lot in here before this pump's low level sensor is going to shut it off. Okay. So what's really cool about this sump is, and I'm not sure if Red Sea designed that into it, I assume that they did, but it's brilliant because once I figured that out, I realized that I didn't have to have this ridiculously expensive auto top off. I could get by with a cheaper version, and that I found to be quite nice actually. It's done really well. Right now I'm going about 3 to 4 days. It is a small reservoir. It's not, I think it's about 2 to 3 gallons. With the open top aquarium, yeah, 3 to 4 days. I suspect that'll get worse in the wintertime when it gets drier around here. So I would like to have a little bit more freshwater top off capacity, but it's okay. It's good. I'm fine with it. I just got to keep on it here. Okay, so these are the, I forget what you call them. They're for cabinets, but basically when you push it in, there's a magnet there that holds the door shut, and then when you push on the door, it pushes it back out. So it's pretty cool. So it allows me to have a cabinet door without having knobs, right? Which is great because little kids will stay in. Of course it's not. There we go. It doesn't normally work that bad, but so now to open it, I just push. You see it pops it out. Then I release the child lock and out it comes. Okay, drawback. Okay. See what height this is? And I'm working in here. Catch that right in the eye. I haven't done it yet, but I always have to remind myself to push those back in when I'm working on it. So I'm not happy with the hazard that presents to my fish keeping. I hope I don't catch it in the eye, but planning on what to do about that. That's it. We're done for the night. Hope you enjoyed. Winter's coming up. It's August in Alaska already. It'll be dark soon, the snow will start falling, and I'll get that reef time itch again to start buying stuff and putting things in here and going full throttle. So if you want to see more, if you like what we're doing here, click that like and subscribe button. There'll be lots of projects and videos to watch this winter. Take care, enjoy.